All right, guys, so welcome back to another episode of this. Continuing with the paper, we are at question 4 of the January 2025 paper, right? So the question 4 is actually testing two things, right? So question 4 is actually testing your knowledge on stock valuation and the income statement. Now, if you have not seen my videos on stock valuation, then you will need to go and see them, right? Go and watch them, or else you're just not going to understand, right? So I am going to put the links to the videos in the description. Please, before you even go further, if you don't know, or if you have not been through the theory of stock valuation, then you can't go further, or else you will not understand. All right, so with that being said, let's go right into this question. All right. So Ray Appliances shop, they sell small kitchen appliances, including air fryers. He uses the AVCO method for inventory control and valuation of their air fryers. The first thing is that they ask you to identify one other method of inventory control and valuation that Ray could have used. I put 2 there, right? You could list anyone. You have the LIFO method and you have the FIFO method, right? There are really 3, LIFO, FIFO, AVCO. And you see I put 2 there so that you just can know. The next question asks you to explain how one method works, right? And I would have explained the FIFO. So FIFO is really, you know, the FIFO, the abbreviation stands for first in, first out, and that's really the explanation. So inventory received first should be sold first. LIFO, right? It is last in, first out, right? So it's really talking about inventory received last should be sold first, right? Then they move on by giving you a table here, right? So they said during the month of December, the following information is available for the movement of air fryers. And so, we have this table that shows us the purchases and sales for the month of December, the number of units and their cost price. We were also given the opening balance, right? So they ask us now to complete the form, right? On the next page, we are to use the AVCO method, right? And they ask us to round off all calculations to the nearest dollar. Truth be told, I'm just seeing the fact that they say we should round off all calculations to the nearest dollar. So I have my cents there. So I am just seeing that. So please pardon me. All right. So this is the form that they will give you. Now you will input, right, the opening balance, December 1, the cost of the inventory, 200, 200 at 502, right? So the unsold inventory here, right, is 502. So it's 502, the unit cost. If you look at it, 502 number of units, and the cost per unit is 200. So it is 502 at 200. So unsold inventory will be 502. The calculations for average cost, we would not have any calculations to do for average cost because it is the first, it's the opening balance, right? And so the value of the inventory on hand is 100,400. And how did I get that? 502 multiplied by 200, you get the 100,400. All right, so that's pretty simple. All right, so it gets a little bit more complex when you move along, but it's kind of simple still, right? So on December 6th, we made our first purchase, right? We bought, right, as you can see here, we bought 125 units for 230. So 125, right, plus at 230, right? So I should have had 125 right there, right, at 230. All right. So what you would do first is you had 502 unit of unsold inventory. right? And you just bought 125 more. So you're going to add those two together. So the total inventory that you have now is total unsold inventory is 627, right? Now, there's a formula that you need to understand when you're doing AVCO in stock valuation, and it is how to calculate the average cost. The formula is the total inventory, total value of the inventory, divided by the number of inventory or the number of units. So 125 multiplied by 230 would give us 28,750. So our total inventory that we have is $129,150, right? So you have to work it from the known to the unknown. So we don't know what the average cost is yet. So this part was blank when I was filling it in, right? So I would have put in the total because I need the total in order to divide it now by the unsold inventory to get the average cost. So the total is 129,150 divided by 627. So the average cost now is 205.98. And as I said before, I didn't remember. Well, I didn't see, right? I was just at work trying to do this, right? So trying to multitask, I overlooked that part of it, right? So what you would have done here now, you would have round this up. So it would be $206 instead of two. I put the cents there, but the question asks you to round it up to the nearest dollar. So you would have round this up to 206, all right? So just bear that in mind. All right, so on the 13th of December, we have our first sale. And the reason why we value our stock, so that when we are selling our stock now, right, we will use the valuation, the new valuation. And if you look, when we are selling our stock, they don't give us any costs because we are going to be using the new value, what we value our stock at, which is $206, right? Right. So we sold rather 257 units at the new valuation price. So we put the new valuation price there. Now, because we are selling 257 units of our inventory, then our unsold inventory would be reduced because we are selling 257 units of our inventory. So we subtract it, which would leave 370 units remaining in stock. Now, we need to have the value of those stock, right? But when we're valuing those stock now, we are not going to use we are going to be using the new valuation, right? Which is the $206. So if you look at it now, $206, the value of our stock remaining is 370, right? Multiply, right? 370 multiplied by 206, which would give us the 76,212. All right. So that's the total inventory that is on hand. All right. Moving on now to the 19th, where we buy some more inventory. We bought 175 inventory, or units rather, at 245. So now we're buying, we had 370 unsold inventory in stock, but we just bought 175, so we add that. So our unsold inventory would increase. We would not record anything right here as yet because we have to move from the known to the unknown. So what do we know? Well, we know that the value of our inventory on hand will increase. How do we know that? So we are going to now multiply the 175, right, by the 205 or 206 to get the new value, which is 42,875, which we're going to add to what was there before. We get 119,87, right? So it probably would be 119,86 if we are, we following the instruction. So now that we know our total inventory that we have on hand, we can now divide that by the number of units. See it right here, sir? And then we calculate the new average cost. So with average cost, right, we will always have to be recalculating the value of our stock, right? Calculating the value of our stock after we sell some of the stock. We have to recalculate it. And we do the same for the 23rd, right? We bought some stock. Well, yes, on the 23rd, we sold some stock using the same inventory valuation right here, 218.51, right? So we sold 322 of our stock at the new valuation, 218.51. So it, if I had followed the instruction, right, it would be 219. So our inventory that we have would be reduced. So we had 545 unsold inventory. That is going to be reduced by 322, which would leave us with 223, which we are going to multiply by 218.51 to leave us now with the value of our inventory that we have, which is 48,727. The 29th, now we bought some 200 units of inventory at $260. So we add that 200 to what was there before, the 223. Now we have 423 units of unsold inventory. Then here, so we'll be blank again. Remember, we are moving from the known to the unknown. So the total value of the inventory that we have is 48,727.73 or 73 cents. However, because we just bought some new stock, right? So it is 200 multiplied by the 260, right? Will give us 52,000 that we will now add to the 48, which would give us 100,727. Now that is our total inventory that we have, the total value of the inventory that we have. We can now divide that by the amount of units, which is 423, which would give us 238.13 cents, which would be our new valuation for the stocks that we have remaining. And so on the 30th, we would have sold some stocks, right? If we sold 410 worth of stocks at $238 dollars 13 cents, right? And so we would subtract the 410 from what the stocks that we have. So we have 13 units remaining, and they would be valued now at $238, right? 13 cents, which would give us 3,095 or 3,096. And that is where you would end it. All right, guys, so we're moving on. So here we are now. This part of the question asks us to calculate raise total cost for purchasing air fryers for the month, right? And so if you look at it, right, if you look at this, you would have purchased, right, on the 6th, the 19th, and the 29th. And so all we need to do is to do the calculation. So 125 units at $230, right? And so you do the calculation for the 3 purchases and you add up the total, right? So that is the cost of purchasing. And then now it says Ray sells an air fryer at a price of $650. So we should calculate the total revenue from the sale of air fryers for the month of December, right? So revenue is equal to sales minus cost. But we need to calculate what the sales figure is. So sales is really the number of units that's sold multiplied by the selling price. So if you look at the table, right, the number of units that are sold, you have 257 units, 322, 410. If you add up those units, you will get 989 units sold. Multiply by 650, you get 642,850, right, which is the sales figure. And you minus the cost of purchasing, right, you get 519,225. Right, so pretty simple so far, pretty straightforward. All right, and so now we reach to where it asks you to do the income statement. So you start with the sales figure, the same sales figure that you would have calculated there, right? The less cost of sales, which is the heading. Add your opening stock, you add your purchases, which we know how we got these figures already. The cost of goods available, right? When we add the purchases to the stock, we get the cost of goods available. You less your closing stock, right? And you may say, so sir, where is the closing stock? So the closing stock would be this right there, right? Obviously, you would round it off, so it's 3,096, right? And so you will get this figure here, which is the cost of sales. You will now subtract from your sales to get 421,921. which is your gross profit. This point here, as I was saying earlier, this point here should not be there, and this is 0.31, so it really would not affect this figure here, so it wouldn't trouble the 9 right here. All right, so that's basically it, right? And you would get your full mark. This question is 20 marks. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. All right, so stay tuned for the next one.